All right, welcome everybody to the Future Proof Podcast. My name is Alex Mysinek. This show explores what's working, what is not in SaaS and AI and digital infrastructure. Today, I'm your host, Alex Mysinek. I am joined here with Jennifer. She is the president and co-owner of Narrativa. It's a company that helps organizations automatically generate accurate, compliant, and high-quality written infrastructure using data and AI. So thank you, Jennifer, for joining me today.
Yeah, thank you, Alex. It's great to be here. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So why don't you go ahead and just introduce yourself and introduce Narrativa and kind of what you guys are all about?
Sure. So a little bit
Okay.
about myself. I have an extensive career in both tech and media. I first started out in television over 20 some years ago,
Nice.
showing my age, and then ventured into tech and fell in love with AI and machine learning and how we could marry together AI technologies with content. And that's really what, before this was way before Chat GPT, OpenAI, and all the LLMs came out. But it's really been awesome to see how with Narrativa, we started in 2015 and we were actually pretty early before the whole AI boom. But even though that was maybe too early, it actually was to our benefit because as we built a platform that was highly regulated, but really, I would say, built into a knowledge graph and with some powerful tools using NLG, NLP, and machine learning capabilities, it lent itself really well to highly regulated industries, right? Like finance or pharma. And so any industry that has proprietary information and has regulated content, right, that has to have 100% accuracy, that's where this is really helpful. So, yeah, we're doing great. And we're now really growing in the clinical trial space. We actually have quite a few large, medium, and small clients. And we're doing really well in growing in the clinical trial space now as the leading AI tech vendor for documentation.
So, at a high level, 30,000 foot view, company comes to you, they need automated regulatory documentation of like a certain product or anything like that. Like, what are you doing to really help them? How are you installing them yourself or like your software or your program or whatever you guys do? What does that look like from your end?
Yeah, so we can get a client up and running, let's say with, automating patient safety narratives, we can get them up and running within 4 weeks or less. And that is by installing a private instance of our licensed platform into their own secure cloud environment, whether that is Azure or AWS. And we do this because we want their proprietary information and their patient data to be protected, right? This cannot be a pure SaaS product. We tell people that, SaaS is where all clients go to one location. But with regulated and proprietary information and patient data, you can't do that, right? You have to have a private instance of a platform within your own secure cloud environment so that you're always protecting that proprietary information. And so we are seeing it fast track. And now we'll talk a little bit about this in a little bit, but with agentic AI, things are going even faster. What used to take, 6 weeks to program, now we have programming agents that are literally getting 6 months worth of work done in about 6 hours or less. And it's perfect. So that's where we're at. And I think it's exciting to see that the integration and implementation setup time is really speeding up.
So, talking about speed and talking about, how you can really help that client, what makes, if you weren't in the talks or if you weren't helping a company, what makes regulatory documentation in life sciences or any type of, industry that you're helping so complex and time consuming?
That's a great question, Alex. So within, let's say just within pharma, okay, for a drug trial, you'll have at least a drug trial usually takes around 10 to 15 years, okay, from design, like with a protocol, designing the trial, all the way to submission and acceptance by a regulator like the FDA or EMA. So in that 10 to 15-year timeline, sometimes, well, actually most of the time, at least 40% of the timeline is wasted on what's called the white space problem, and that is paperwork. So all the paperwork of, you know, not just emails and meetings and documenting things, but also turning the data that's collected from the patients, right, during that clinical trial into the reports that then have to finally be put together in a submission package and sent to the FDA. With that said, these reports and documents are so data heavy that they lend themselves perfectly to AI.
Yeah.
And I always say AI is the most useful when you have a very data heavy content.
Yeah.
And so that's where we're seeing really the big efficiency gains is with the reporting.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, that's super interesting. You never really think about what it takes to get either a product or a clinical trial to, from fruition to, acceptance from the FDA and all that. Like you said, white space in the middle. I bet you it's mountainous amount of data and paperwork and down to even emails. I didn't even know they
Oh,
probably
yeah.
have to spend all the communication as well about it. That's super interesting. So you guys, are an old 10 years old, from when you guys started to now. Has anything kind of really changed on what you focused on and, where you are from day one to now?
Yeah. In fact, when we first started in 2015, we were not even looking into pharma. Myself and my other three co founders and our whole team, we were from tech. So most of us were from tech or media or marketing background. And so for us, it was really interesting because we first started Narrativa with just the sole mission of turning data into like smart content, as we called it, or text based content. So we would, automatically generate white papers, long tail, short tail articles. We did many stock market index articles for one of our clients. First clients was the Wall Street Journal, Dow Jones, Infobuy, and lots of these other media companies. We would generate any kind of article automatically that was data heavy. Okay, weather reports or index articles, even currency articles, things like that, sports articles. But
Yeah.
then in 2019, we got several large knocks on our door from Sanofi, Merck, Almirall, TCS, and they said, "Hey, we see you guys are really great at turning data into text. Could you do the same thing with regulatory documentation for clinical trials?" We said, "Maybe. Let's try." And so we were not 100% sure. So for the first few years, 2019 to then, I would say late 2021, during COVID, we really tried to perfect how to automatically generate these different documents, these different clinical reports. And we actually built our platform out so that it could automatically take the data sets and turn them into these reports. And we worked specifically with, CDISC, which is a huge nonprofit in the clinical trial space. It's Clinical Data Interchange Standards Consortium. It's a long name, but
Yeah.
CDISC. They were really the ones who started providing standardization for data and documents 25 years ago in the industry.
Interesting.
And because of their origin story and their standardization, it really lent itself to AI. So if CDISC had not been around, I don't think Narrativa would have done so well right now within the clinical space because we
Interesting.
really needed that standardization for data sets, and data collection, and then also the documents. So now we pivoted since 2019 into pharma, and we've been the leader since then, and it's been painful.
Yep.
Like, I'm not gonna lie, it's been very painful at times because when you are I would say when I always, say that when you're the person having to chop down the trees in the forest to even create a path, it's very painful. You're going to have splinters, you're going to have some injuries, and it's hard to get people to adopt a new technology. And this was before, I started speaking with people and selling in pharma before OpenAI came out with ChatGPT. And people looked at me like I was an alien. They did not know what I was talking about. They were scared to death. What does AI mean? So it has been an uphill climb. But
Okay.
now we are seeing the benefit of it. Now we are seeing that people are actually not just open to AI, they are actually aggressively adopting AI in a very fast way, which can be good and bad. And I have a lot of opinions about that. You do need to be careful. I tell clients I talk with every day, on average, I do 10 to 20 new demos a week, which is without any advertising really. And so
Yeah.
people are coming to me, which is fantastic, and to Narrativa, but I tell them, be cautious. I even tell them the right kinds of questions to ask other AI vendors. I said, because you want to make sure your data and your proprietary information is all protected
Safe.
and that you're not just, putting your information into a platform that has chat GPT with a fresh coat of paint on top. So just be very, very, very careful.
Absolutely. No, I think that's a great, even with non-regulatory companies or even, just companies that deal with sensitive client information. That's something that I've heard a lot with, you know, even the troubles and, difficulties of even having, your employees using ChatGPT and putting your information into there and not being regulated. So I can't even only imagine if it's on the larger scale with like a regulatory, information, like really sensitive client data. So I know that you guys have like a no code approach. So how does the no code approach change adoption across the regulatory and clinical teams for you?
Yeah, so that's been a little bit tricky. And I'll tell you, because clinical is the programmers and the biostatisticians within clinical they are required to actually provide code to the regulators, the FDA and EMA, on the tables, the figures, the listings that they program. Okay.
Okay.
So it is mandatory. And what's been interesting is at first we built our platform as a no code solution so that it could adapt easily and quickly to new use cases, okay, without needing a lot of programming on the back end, which is fantastic. We have a lot of agents now that are doing even more of that. But what I love is that now with agentic AI, these more finite tools, right, from all the AI models that we have, the finite tools, especially the programming agents, they actually now are providing all the R code and Python code that can then be sent with the AI generated documents to the regulators. So you're having both. So, and I have a lot of programmers and biostatisticians who get angry when they hear that. But I said, no, 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 no. Listen, I still need you. You still are needed because we still need you to do the validation, the QC, and actually become more prompt engineers other than just programmers. So that's
Okay.
really everyone's having to learn how to be the best prompt engineers and to get the best output, right, of what is needed for their final package and submission.
Okay. Awesome. I mean, so now going with that and efficiency and kind of what you do for these companies, what kind of scale are these customers achieving with your services? Kind of the volume of documents, time saved, consistency of improvements, kind of where are you guys really helping them achieve results?
Yeah, I would say the largest efficiency gains that we're seeing are number one, scalability. Like a patient safety narrative is an individual report that has to be written for each patient who experienced adverse events, in a trial like headache, nausea, stroke, or, something like that. So each patient has to have that report as part of the final submission. And on average, some of our large enterprise clients, they have to, well, with human medical writers, they would have to generate or write at least 10,000 patient narratives in 1 year. That's a lot. And each patient narrative report is at least 3 pages or 12, 15 pages each. So you look at the scale of the volume, we are now seeing that we can generate at least 10,000 narratives within, I would say, from start to finish. They can generate drafts and then the final narrative within days because they generate multiple drafts to review them for final QC. But we're seeing at least 80% efficiency gains when it comes to time savings.
It's crazy.
And then with the other, we're also seeing cost savings, large, even though they're paying for a software, right? An additional cost, right? So this is where it took a little while for people to understand, well, I'm paying now for two things. I'm paying for a software, Narrativa software. Then I'm also paying for a medical writer. How is this going to save me money? And so I helped them figure out, I said, listen, with our software, you're going to save at least 80% of the time. Then you're going to have fewer actual hours, manual hours that you're going to have to pay, right, for those medical writers to write the whole document. So you're only going to be paying them for the hours that they need to just QC the document and
Interesting.
do that final validation. So that's where we're seeing a big increase. And then finally, the most exciting, and this is where I get really excited, is actually the data accuracy. So we have a client who they're a medium-sized pharma sponsor, and they had a molecule IP that was expiring last year in 2024, December 1st, 2024. And they went to several CROs, contract research organizations, to see if anyone could finish all the documentation in time before that IP molecule expired, or else they were going to lose tons of money and they were going to lose the trial, right? Well, guess what? They came to us 6 months before. We got even before the database was locked with all the final data, patient data, we started setting up all the documents in the templates, making sure the structure was right, everything. We even trained their personnel, all the medical writers on the platform. As soon as the database was locked, then they just hit the button and actually had the final output generated, QC'd it in 2 weeks, and they made the deadline 1 month before expiration. So it
Nice.
saved them hundreds of millions of dollars. And then it was submitted and accepted. So this is exciting because I'm excited to see how this is not just helping with time efficiency, cost efficiency, but data accuracy is the most important, because it's not just saving corporations hundreds of millions or billions of dollars, it's actually saving more patients. So can you imagine if the data accuracy increases, more patients are going to get those drugs sooner, going to get those vaccines sooner, et cetera.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, because I think you just touched on the best. I mean, obviously, you can help with efficiency and speed and all that stuff, but if it's not accurate, you guys are, that's not a good outcome if it impedes or hurts down in the future. So now you're actually improving everything else, and now even hopefully improving like the product and the accuracy and everything like that. So that's huge. That's a very big wing. Well, awesome. Where do you guys see? I know that you mentioned that you are not doing a ton of outbound marketing, and you're still having people come to you. That might be some of like what you said with the change in the outlook on AI and how it's grown over the last couple of years, and now you're not that weirdo in the meetings talking about AI. Now people are shouting you out. Where do you want to be in the next 6 to 12 months?
Yeah, I'm excited. We're entering our Series A funding round in Q1 2026. We'll
Nice.
see how that goes. We are entertaining the idea. We have a lot of investors coming to us, but we've been profitable for 2 years now, which is super exciting. We've taken very little funding in the last 10 years, which makes it great. And we are a rarity. I tell people, I said, listen, all these big news articles come out about people taking $100 million investment or whatever. I'm like, that doesn't, to me, that's not exciting, because then you have people who own you more, right? And they can control you or micromanage you. But I really love that our team is so efficient. We work so hard, and we're hoping to raise a Series A just so we can expand our team and build faster. We have so many new solutions coming in our product roadmap for 2026. Our goal is to try to automate the full R&D co-authoring solution for the whole document life cycle in clinical
Yeah.
trials. It's a very, very big task. We call that Mount Everest. Um, so so we're really excited. I think this is the year where 2026 is going to catapult us to the next level, and really bring Narrativa to be really more of the household name to help all of these companies, small, medium, and large, to be more efficient and to really adopt agentic AI like into their everyday workflow. So I think that's what's
All right. Well, one more question. How do you see generative AI reshaping regulatory documentation over the next few years?
I would say the biggest way is information workflow. So, generative AI in general is all about information, and you really have to make sure. And I quote this a lot, I say it a lot, is that you have to make sure you have great data. If you don't have great data, you're going to have a really bad output, garbage in, garbage out. But I really encourage folks to look at AI, your assistant, to assist with perfecting your information workflow. Okay. So it's not just about one document or two documents and, well, how does AI fit into those templates? No, actually, it's about how does AI help to really track the information from multiple sources that I need to create many different types of documents or many different types of creations, right? So you're looking, it's not just about, okay, a digital protocol or a statistical analysis plan, long words. So, all this to say is you have to think of it as the big picture of your information. Where's the information coming from? Where's the information going to? And how is it being cleaned? Is it being warehoused, right? This data, this information, how does it work together with my AI tools to give the best outcome? And that's where I see Gen AI to be the most powerful is with our information workflow.
Interesting. Okay. Well, awesome. Well, thanks so much. So, if any company or anybody wants to get in touch with you guys, if they want to set up a demo or talk to your team, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, just they can find us at narrativa.com or you can reach out to me on LinkedIn, Jennifer Bittinger on LinkedIn.
Well, thank you so much, Jennifer, for joining me today. It was awesome.
Thanks, Alex. Appreciate it.
All right. Bye bye.